Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, we're going to start this tutorial marks a new series on the on Flask. So we're going to be building a simple to-do API using Flask, and then you're going to be deploying it to Heroku. So this is the live application, the final application that you're going to be building, and this is live on the internet. It's on Heroku. You can see the URL. This is hosted live on Heroku. So this is the application that you're going to build. It's just a simple to-do API. So it's just an API that contains a to-do list, basically having some CRUD functionality. You're going to be able to create to-dos, delete them, update them, retrieve them, and stuff like that. So just what we're going to do in this series. Okay, so this is just the introduction part, and I'm going to show you what the libraries that you're going to use, the technologies, get the environment set up, and get coding. Okay, so let me just show you what the final project is going to, the final product is going to be. So this is going to be the final product. It's going to be hosted on Heroku. Okay, so if you know what Heroku is, don't worry about that. You know about Heroku just as we continue in this series. Okay, so this is just the application, so I can be able to create posts. So if I'm using Swagger, and if you know what Swagger is, Swagger UI, we'll talk about that as we proceed in this series. Okay, so I'm simply going to create a new to do. So I'm going to say finish secrets project. Okay, I'm going to create a to-do list just like that, and I'm going to say finish the game. Let's call it the description is just going to be finish game dev. Okay, so just finish game development. So our project, our to-do is just going to be finish secret project, and then the description is to finish the game dev. So now that we have that you can just press execute, and this is going to post this to our database on the API, and you can see it has returned a response code of 200, which shows that everything is okay. And you can see it has created a to-do list, and its completed status is false. The date has been created is the current date. The description, which is the description we provided up here. The ID, it automatically assigns an ID since this is the first post. That's why it has an ID of 1, and then the name, which is a name that we assign here. So that's how we can simply go ahead and actually create to post to our API, basically. So now that you have posted something to our API, let's go ahead and actually get the content from our API, so we can also be able to retrieve the content. So I'm just going to press this execute, and it's going to return to me all the to-dos within our API, and we see that for now we only have one to do, which is just the finish game dev. That's why we get back this response. Okay, so now that we have that, we can also go ahead and actually get a specific to do using the ID. So we can see we have this to do, and its ID is 1, so I can get that specifically, because on normal APIs we have many records, right? So we can be able to use the IP to get specific records, and that's why this route is for. And you can see we get back only that specific dictionary, dictionary, basically. Because you're going to be using Python for this project, that's why I'm calling it a dictionary. Okay, but in the previous one we got back a list, because there could be many of them. So this you are able to retrieve all of the to-dos, or you're able to retrieve a specific to-do. Okay, so and then we can also be able to update our to-do. So for example, I want to update my to-do with an ID of 1, so I provided in there the ID. I want to update this. So what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to copy everything, and I'm simply going to change the complete to be true. So I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to say description. I think the one I copied was the name, so this is going to be the name. So I'm going to paste this here. The description, I'm just going to copy description from here. Just copy that, and then I'm going to make sure I copy that right. So I'm going to come here, F and then V. I paste that there, and then the completed status is going to be set to true. So now that we have that, I'm simply gonna press execute. And this is going to execute a code, and it's going to update our that entry. So now you can see that our status has been updated. So whenever I go to get, and I try to get the ID of 1, the status is going to be true. You can see it changed from false to true. So that's just the basic API. And then you can also have the last functionality, which is we can be able to delete. So I'm going to press try, and I'm going to delete the ID of 1. So the to do with an ID, the record with an ID of 1. So I'm going to press execute, and it's going to hide, and it's going to return to me status code of 200, and the response body says to do deleted. So that's we can confirm that. We can go to we can go to get all the requests, and then here you're simply going to get an empty list since there's no record in our database. So that's what we are simply going to build this simple to do list API, and then deploy it to Heroku using Python. We have the library that we're going to be using going to be using Flask. So we can get started installing the libraries that you're going to use. So the first library that you're going to install is going to be Flask, and the other libraries that you're going to use. So make sure that you have your requirements. So first of all, you need to have let me just make this larger and then try to zoom in. Let me try to zoom in a bit so that you guys can see. This is zoom in. Okay, so I hope you guys can see from now. Let me just zoom out a bit. So what you're simply going to do is that you're going to create that set up our project. So I'm going to create a simple folder where we're going to keep our applications. So I'm going to say mkdir. You can create that if you're on Windows. You can create it using the normal UI. Even this command work for Windows. mkdir will also work for Windows, but feel free to use anything that you're comfortable with. Basically, I'm just creating a directory. So go ahead and actually create a folder. So go ahead and actually create that folder. Okay, so I'm going to call that folder Flask API. Let's call it to do API series. Okay, I'm going let's call it to do API. Let's call it app. Yeah, so we have this name. So to do API app, and then I can create that folder. So I'm going to change into that directory to do API. This is gonna be app. To do app, and then I'm going to press enter. So we are in this directory, and you can see we have no content inside of the directory. So you can just open this directory. You can just navigate to directory using the GUI. It's also fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So now that you have created that directory and you have navigated to that directory, we are going to create a virtual environment. So a virtual environment just helps us to separate our project dependencies from the global Python dependencies. So this virtual environment is not compulsory to create, but it's a good practice to create, and I always advise you to create a virtual environment. Okay, so I'm going to create a virtual environment, and I'm going to call it VNV. So this command that I'm going to type out is not going to work for Windows users. So if you're on Windows, you can go to Python documentation, and you can see this is a command to create a virtual environment on Windows. Okay, so let me just scroll up here. So if you're on Windows, this is it. On Windows, you have to type in this command to create a virtual environment on Windows. Okay, so you can go and find that in the Python docs, and you can search for how to create a virtual environment on Windows, and then you can find that page right here. So if I remember, I will leave the link in the description below so that you guys can find this link easily. Okay, so now that I'm going to create the virtual environment, so if you're on Windows, just follow the documentation. I'm going to create the virtual environment. This is only going to work for Linux, so a Linux and MacBook. So I'm going to say python-m VNV, and I'm going to give it the name of my virtual environment, and I'm going to also call it VNV. So I'm going to press enter. This will take a while, and it's going to create for us that Python virtual environment. So if I do ls, you can see now I have a folder in there called VNV, and the name of that folder came from this part. So if you want to change that, you have to change this part. Okay, the other commands remain the same. So now that we have the virtual environment, let's go ahead and actually activate our virtual environment. So I have a virtual environment open, but I'm going to deactivate it. So I'm going to say deactivate, and then I'm going to activate the current one that we are working with. So I'm going to say source VNV /bin/activate. And this is going to activate the virtual environment, and you can know that the virtual environment is activated when you see the name of the virtual environment within parentheses at the beginning of the line within the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually install the library that we need. So I'm going to say pip3. If you're on Windows, it's actually pip, just pip, but if you're on Linux, you can use pip or pip3. So if you're on Windows, use pip. If you're on Linux and Mac, you can use pip3. Okay, before you have that, make sure that you have Python installed, and if you can just check that out by doing Python -- version to check your Python version. I'm actually running on Python 3.8.5, so make sure that you have Python installed. If you have Python 2, then you need to go ahead to the python.org and install Python 3. So I hope that you are familiar with this, and you are familiar with the basics of Python programming language. Okay, it's one of the requirements for this series. So now that we have that, by the way, you don't need to be advanced in Python. Do that. If you're just a beginner, you can follow along with these tutorials. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's go and actually install this. So for Windows it will be pip, for Linux it will be pip3. Okay, you're going to install Flask, and then you're going to install Flask -SQLAlchemy, and then you're also going to install Flask-marshmallow, and you're also going to install marshmallow, and you're also going to be installing yeah, these are the libraries that we need for now, and the other libraries will install them as we go along, but for now these are the libraries that we need. So I'm just going to press enter. I got an error, so pip3, okay, I forgot the install command, so this is going to be pip3 install. Okay, so I'm going to press enter, and it's going to install the libraries into the virtual environment that you have created. So just give it some time. We got an environment, could not find the version of marshmallow. Okay, so let me just go back to official documentation. I probably made a mistake, so this is just going to be Flask marshmallow. There is also the marshmallow, so I don't know why it's giving me that error. So pip install Flask marshmallow, and then marshmallow. Okay, so let me just try to Google that out. So let me just Google it here. So I'm going to search that on the line, and then I hope I don't know why I get that error. So let me just see. Okay, so here we are. So let me just search for it. So pip install marshmallow. So yeah, that's the command. Just copy that, and then I'm going to paste it here. So press enter, and then let's see what it does right now. So let's just wait for it to install. Hopefully we don't get that error. Yeah, now it's installing. I don't know what the error was, but yeah, it's installing now. So now that we have our libraries installed, while it's installing, let me just tell you something that you also need to have. So our libraries have been installed, so we also need to have we need to download this application. Is called Postman. So Postman is just going to be used to test your application, to make different calls to your application and stuff like that. So you need to have Postman installed, or any other API any other tool that you can call API, but I kindly the best recommendation is that you use Postman. It's very popular and has a great community and great support. So go ahead and actually install Postman, and then in the next tutorial we'll begin to code. So that's all I wanted us to discuss for this tutorial. We have the libraries installed, we have our Postman installed. So in the next tutorial we begin to actually go into code, and we'll begin to code. So that the editor that I'll be using is VS Code. Feel free to use any editor you want. Feel free to use PyCharm, IntelliJ, whatever editor that is you're familiar with, so it's no problem. Yeah, so guys, this is all I wanted us to discuss in this tutorial. So in the next tutorial we'll actually begin to build our API from scratch using Python. So yeah, that's all I wanted us to talk about. So thanks for watching. If you are new to my channel, please kindly consider subscribing. It will help me a lot and encourages me to keep making these videos. So see you guys in the next one. Keep safe.